Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting of the Bloomington City Council to order. I wonder if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Lauer,
Here.
Alderman Sage,
Here.
Alderman Willamwe,
Here.
Alderman Stearns,
Here.
Alderman Painter,
Here.
Alderman Schmidt,
Here.
Alderman Black,
Here.
Alderman Howman,
Here.
Alderman Fruin,
Here.
Mayor Renner.
Here. Thank you very much. I'm going to start with public comment. We have 5 cards this evening. I'm going to start with a familiar face, Gary Lambert, who has actually served as our mayor in the Citizens Academy. Come forward, Gary. Thank you.
Good evening. I was looking through the charts and graphs for tonight's presentation on the 6 months financial review. And I noted that as a generalization, with the exception of the newly imposed taxes, revenues are down, expenditures are up. Along those lines, I got my notice of Social Security saying what the benefits are going to be for next year. They're going up 1.7%. 85% of that is taxable income. Take that off, you're left with about a 1.25% increase. I'm very fortunate. I have a pension also from Caterpillar Tractor. They have 0 cost of living. I'm still getting the same dollar amount as when I retired 15 years ago. As you're dealing with the problems of the upcoming budget, keep in mind there are many here in this city who have only that Social Security to rely on. On a lighter note, I got an email today. I normally don't like to read, and I won't all of it, but it just called my attention that we're going ahead with a monkey exhibit at the Miller Park. And evidently the way that works, we have to spend the money up front, and it's fully reimbursed by the state, after the fact. Closing line says, so it looks like the bankrupt state of Illinois is going to fund the monkeys. Makes perfect sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Diane Benjamin.
Good evening. I came back tonight because after I left the podium last Monday night, Mayor Renner made a comment. He said, people state things that aren't accurate at all, but we don't respond. So I don't know what he was responding to. I don't know if he was saying something about what I said wasn't true. I don't know if he was claiming I don't have a lawsuit against the city of Bloomington. I got new papers in the mail today from the city of Bloomington. Basically the same thing the judge ruled against him in November. So it'll be interesting when we go back to court on the 23rd. One of the things I mentioned last Monday night was a line item on the city trial balance that said loan to employee to create, and it was in the amount of $10,000, and that was one of the FOIA requests that I had asked it for information last October from the city, and I never got anything. This week I got it. The city found it. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You're going to have to go to my website, blnnews.com, if you want to see what it is. But I think you'll be very dismayed at how the city handles taxpayer money. The second one was about the Coliseum, and I received a denial on that in the mail. But Jeff Jurgens just told me that he's working on getting the payroll and the concession sales from the Coliseum. In closing here, these are all emails that I got because of my lawsuit. There's one I want to read to you. It was written by Johnny Painter to Nora Dukowitz. Nora, do you know if Diane Benjamin has made more than 50 requests in the past year? I'm just curious, because if she has, we should start charging her for this nonsense. Johnny, from the Attorney General's website. Attorney General Lisa Madigan believes that an open and honest, accountable government, the cornerstone of democracy, can be achieved only through a fair and open exchange of information between government and the public. In Illinois, our most important transparency laws, the Freedom of Information Act and the Open Meetings Act, endeavor to open the workings of government to the public, shed light on the government actions, and in the process strengthen our democracy. If laws don't matter, I'm sure your people that in your ward will appreciate knowing that. Thank you. And Merry Christmas, because I won't see you all.
We're going to go to Elton Franklin.
My name is Alton Franklin. You know, there's times where you just have to laugh. Oh, and by the way, for both the regular and the consent agenda, and anything I may say up here, I'm not receiving any compensation, nor do I have any vested interest in any party subject to any of these marvelous little pieces. I find it interesting how often that it seems like we can't find anything to address the issue that's being brought forward, so we try to make fun of it. You know, folks, I left that behind in 5th grade. I would appreciate it if we could get a little bit more mature here. We're supposed to be adults. I try to be. I found myself the target of a little jibe, as it were. A remark was made in the local slantograph with regards to my use of a profane term, for which, by the way, I do not apologize. It was an accurate assessment of what I was judging at the time. I don't feel bad. If anybody feels bad about it, learn to live with it. Simply put, after 6 years in the Corps and 4 years in the Navy, folks, I got a pretty thick skin. You can't really get to me with a personal attack. But you can through ineptitude, incompetence, and attacking my fellow citizens about being off their meds, about anything that is construed to be some kind of a mocking address of a citizen of our fair city. I don't get it, folks. I love this town. I love the folks that are in it. Even this council. You know what? There's a lot of members of my family that I love to death. Can't stand the damn behavior. And this is really showing the kind of behavior that I abhor. You know, we're, again, supposed to be adults. Let's address the issues. In closing, you know, it's remarkable that I was subject to that attack. There's no other word for it. In 4 years of maintaining a better record of attendance at City Council than most of the members sitting up there, there's been about 2 or 3 times that something that I've said has been brought out of what I consider to be very salient, very relevant issues. Let's get it together, folks. Thanks.
Mr. Fist Bump Schmidgall.
How's it going, guys? Hello there, everyone. This is Fist Bump again. I'm a concerned citizen, of course, and also on the morning show program with Cities 92.9 with Ian Bain. You know that Cities 92.9 is the news and talk of Bloomington. WRPW if you need the call letters. I raised today to talk about the trash taxes and monthly trash fees. They are too high already, concerning how much money you waste in government. If you are all deciding to raise the trash fees here in town, I want to warn you, give you a fist bump warning, that this will not be tolerated. You buy yourself dinner with taxpayers' money, you pay for flamingo museums, We the people are getting a little tired of it. What is my warning, you ask? Don't raise the trash tax. I know you want to. Fist bump over and out for City's 92.9 Talk, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. If you agree not to raise the trash tax, don't respond to my question. Just move right along.
Okay, John Brandt. Mr. Brandt.
I'll take a deep breath and relax because I'm going to compliment you. And that doesn't happen often here, but I think it's very much in order. It's been said, and it's very true, there are no two brains that think alike. I've observed here for a long time. That's very true, and your thought process, different views, the discussion prior to the final decision has enhanced our beautiful city greatly. You're to be complimented, not insulted. My only wish for 2015 for the public that's behind me, that when you come to this microphone, that you have positive thoughts and you conduct yourself in a very polite manner and make suggestion. And if you want to, you can work for the city on a volunteer basis and help them. I've witnessed all the criticism you've had this year, and you're covering many things and running a business that, give or take $100 million, is your responsibility. You've done a wonderful job. You have not engineered a program. You've discussed it. You've disagreed. You've even disagreed to the point sometimes you've made each other angry. But when the final vote was taken, it benefited all the citizens of this community. I thank you. I've been here a long time. I've also come to the council when I first came not knowing exactly what I was going to experience. I've enjoyed it. I come back. I thoroughly enjoy it. I enjoy the diversity of your thought, the diversity of your discussion, and the finalization of the result. And we, the citizens, are much better off because of your efforts. I'm sorry, and I apologize for those that step up to this microphone and insult you. I think that's wrong, and I say to them, in 2015, come to the microphone, put your smiley face on, give a suggestion, keep your criticism at home. That's my view, that's my point, and I too have a thicker skin than you do. And I say to you, be polite at all times. My other thought to you is I hope you all have a Merry Christmas. Enjoy your holiday. And 2015 will be a wonderful year, and it'll be a wonderful year because you've made 2014 a good year. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along to our consent agenda. We have items 6A through N. Are there any items that any member of the City Council would like to remove from the consent agenda? Oh, I'm sorry, we have through O. Is there a motion then to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Moved by Alderwoman Schmidt. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Alderwoman Painter. Alderman Fruin?
Thank you, Mayor. With regard to the consent agenda, I have not received any monies or financial benefits from any of the individuals or organizations referenced in the agenda items, and thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. If everyone will vote, an aye would be in support of the consent agenda. Thank you. As presented. The motion carries 9-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. Thank you. Okay. Moving right along to the regular agenda, item 7A, we have Bloomington Public Library 2014 Annual Report, and we have about approximately 20 minutes. That's our target. About 10 of those will be a presentation, and approximately 10 of those would be question and answer. And we have Georgia Boda coming forward. Thank you, Georgia.
Hi, this works, okay. Let me figure out how to move the slides and we're good.
Scott's on top of this one.
Good. Right off the bat, I have to admit there's a mistake in this. In your book, the slide on the screen is correct. I had somebody create that and a decimal point was missing. The whole point of this slide is we get about 86% of our total budget from the property tax, but it's not the whole 100%. We get a substantial amount of money from Golden Prairie. There's some other taxes, some revenue, donations that make up the other maybe 15%. So, and I'm sorry that the one in your
Actually, I wonder if I could ask you, just because we have a couple new council members, if you could clarify the Golden Prairie contractual relationship.
Oh, sure.
for us.
I'm
No,
sorry.
no, that's-
Golden Prairie Public Library District is the taxing district that's around Bloomington. It kind of rings it. Arrowsmith, Ellsworth, Shirley, a lot of the small towns around Bloomington have formed a library district, and they contract with Bloomington Public Library for service. They don't ever intend to do their own library. It enables them, all of their residents to use Bloomington Public Library. And our bookmobile makes stops, out in that area. So it's a nice trade-off for both of us.
Thank you. Just want to clarify that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, and then the operating budget, I guess what I'd call to your attention here is that the salaries and benefits of Bloomington Public Library come in about 60% of budget. If we would compare ourselves to other public libraries in the state, we're on the low end. The state would recommend that it be maybe 60 to 70% of your budget, and we're on the low end. And all of this is very readily available for us because every public library in the state has to complete an annual report, which, with that long kind of boring document in your packet, not very readable, but all of that data, is available then to other libraries to compare themselves to. And this is our skyrocket circulation. Circulation went up 112% from 2005 to 2014. You can see a slight decrease last year. I would attribute that to the economy improving, which is a good thing. And libraries all across central Illinois are experiencing the same kind of downtick of 5 to 8% circulation. I would also say we are going to settle into that 1.5 million because we own about 300,000 items in our building, and we don't really have room for any more. So, you can only get so much turnover out of so much stuff. So I think we've kind of hit our max from where we are without some significant change of some kind. We did some comparison against other nationwide figures too. The one on the left, you can see that circulation per item cost $6.06 in fiscal year 5. 10 years later, in fiscal 14, the cost of each item is $3.49. So, say that $25 book that you didn't buy at Barnes & Noble, it cost us $3.50 to lend it to you, but that's a significant savings over those 10 years. It's going down, which is a good thing. And what else could I say about that? Technology, lots of things have helped, make that so. I'll move on. The circulation per capita, which is, the number of people in the community, and then divide the amount of circulation. The average across the nation is 12 circulations per capita. Ours is 19.5. So that says to you, we're a very busy library, which is a good thing too. A little noisy, but busy. I know you're going to ask me about ebooks, so I put a slide in here about it. No, they are, a rapidly growing thing. Everybody got a tablet. We have taught so many people how to use their tablet after Christmas. I don't even have a good count. You can now come in and make an appointment with a librarian. They'll show you how to work whatever your device is, how to get onto Overdrive, download, copy. Now, if the publishers would only make it simple. This is the list of the 6 major publishers. Penguin and Random House just combined, so now there's actually 5. But each one of them has a different way that they sell ebooks to libraries. Some of them, they charge an astronomical amount, and then we can, have it forever. Or they charge us a reasonable amount, but after it's gone out 26 times, it's gone. We have to buy another copy. Others, let us have it for a year, and then it expires. If we want it again, we have to buy it again. So it's a very complex kind of thing, and we have several platforms for digital materials. Books primarily come through Overdrive. We belong to My Media Mall, which is a large consortium in northern Illinois. And we can buy our own books, and then we have access to the consortium's books. They also lend audiobooks. We have a service called Zinio, where you can check out digital magazines and look at them on your iPad or tablet. And then we also have a music platform called Freegal that lets you download, I think it's 3 songs a month, and you get to keep them. They have quite an extensive book of music. But I would call to your attention, of the 1.5 million items we circulated last year, only about a little over 50,000, or 3.6%, were e-materials. So that's not yet, a really significant. Books aren't gone yet. Moving on. Our cardholder count has gone up by about 10,000 people in just the last couple years. So that's a good thing. You can see that is a Google map where we plotted the address of all the active cards. And so that was 11, this is 14. The pattern of where people live is pretty much the same, just a little more dense. Pew Research was funded by the Gates Foundation and has done a lot of research about libraries in the last 5 or so years, and they have found, to me, nothing surprising, but public libraries improve the quality of life in the community. We provide many services that people have a hard time finding elsewhere. I mean, we do a lot of really basic computer training, job hunting help, resume, that kind of thing that I don't know where you would go otherwise to have somebody, happily show you how to set up lost. social media helps. You know, and they're probably using story time every single day of the week, so any day you come, you can, you know,
Thank you.
yep. Anything
Alderman
else?
Sage? Mine's working. Is yours not? Let's see.
Right. Yeah. I have it, but I don't have it at my fingertips tonight. It is growing. Yes, it's growing. Hmm. You know, initially, you know, I think everybody thought straight to the moon. I think libraries are kind of seeing a leveling off, and we didn't choose to use it, but I have seen in Pew Research that readers are readers. And so people who read, they read books, they read on tablets, they listen to audiobooks, you know, they read in all platforms. And so, you know, we think it certainly is going to grow some more, but I don't know, it's going to be a long time, I think, before it completely replaces paper print books.
Oh, well, of course, yeah, but I was just interested in the year-over-year growth because everything I'm reading suggesting that that is continuing to climb.
Yes.
And so
And
I'll send you some other questions
Yeah,
just in the
do
interest
that.
of time.
We've-
We can share with the council.
Greatly ramped up the money we're spending on ebooks as
Okay.
well to meet
Okay.
that demand. Sure.
All right, thank you.
We're back on.
All right,
Alderman
thank you.
Longway.
Right in time. Well, Georgia, thank you very much for the report. I greatly enjoyed it. I especially enjoyed the children's program because I think you know, anytime you have children enjoying the community, you know, to repeat a cliche, they are the future. It's important for us if we're going to keep a community that is vibrant, that children enjoy the community, and eventually either they will choose to stay or will choose to come back when they're adults, you know, with their own children. So I really love seeing those. I heard, I think a couple of weeks back when the town of Normal had a consultant in town discussing whether or not you know, their library expansion plans, and he mentioned that he didn't think that moving the library from the area where it is in Uptown Normal is the appropriate thing to do because it really would be moving it from most of the people who use it, but also the pool of volunteers such as students who are, you know, who currently help out with their programs. So I was just kind of curious, what is the status of our, because there were at some point people had talked about maybe joining efforts, you know, between Bloomington and Normal, and to see what we can do together as far as expansion. So I'm just curious as to what the status, you know, are there discussions between the two groups? What's the status of that, and where do you think we should go?
I would say that's not been discussed in the last year especially. We do many joint things with Normal. You know, that you can take your Normal library card and you come into Bloom. We use the same computer ILS system, and we just register your card, and you know, you use the library just as if you know, you lived in Bloomington. But you know, they seem to feel they want their own library. We have, over the time that I've been the director, approached Normal at least 3 times about various joint endeavors, and they've always not been interested. So,
And I can just tell you, the one thing of all the things that Chris Coos and I talk about, had 2 meetings today, where we throw ideas on the table that we might This was one where we had one discussion, and it wasn't happening, and essentially for lots of reasons. There's structural differences. Their library board is elected. Our library board is appointed by the mayor, subject to the approval of the council. We have a union. So there are any number of situations beyond sharing library cards. At this point, I think that's as far as we're going.
They charge $1 to borrow a DVD from their library.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
And we don't charge anything. So that attracts normal people, I think, to us. Yeah. But we continue to cooperate on, on other things throughout the year.
Yeah.
Oh.
Alderman Lau.
Just real quick, I don't want to take up your time. Just to expand on Alderman Melwamway's question, and I don't necessarily an answer tonight, but is there any talk of additional, or maybe we already are collaborating with our universities? We're very blessed to have 3 universities right here in town with wonderful libraries.
Karen can speak to that. Their uses are very different. It's not that we wouldn't collaborate, and when the occasion arises, we certainly do, but kind of their purpose and who uses them are just kind of different.
Okay, and then to expand just a little bit further on Alderman Sage's question, is there any talk of, and maybe this is an industry thing, remote capabilities in terms of downloading from outside the actual brick and mortar building? In other words, on the internet, is there cloud technology available? At some point we might think about going there.
I'm losing it a little bit. There certainly is cloud,
Right.
technology available that, is widely available. We are on the fiber ring to use, the high-speed internet. You can download an audio, the books from Overdrive, you can download at home
Okay.
from an app. Am I answering your question?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Georgia.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll move right along to item 7B, analysis of bids and approval of the fiscal year 2015 sewer rehabilitation contract. And before, since we have a 25-minute presentation, I'm going to go ahead and have the presentation first before we have the motion, and then the roughly 10 minutes or 15 minutes of question and answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, and this is just a 10-minute presentation. But
Oh, I'm
basically,
sorry, I read it wrong. 25, yeah.
Yeah,
Total.
the contract tonight is certainly one that's been budgeted. There's really no question. We do recommend approval of this contract, but because this is a very significant pipelining project, I've asked our Public Works Department, Kevin Cothe, city engineers here tonight, to just help the council and the community better understand of how we're going to be using this pipelining technology, not only now, but in the future, and how this also is something that was talked about and recommended we consider as part of our sanitary sewer and storm drain master plan. So Kevin will take a few minutes and just give some overview so you can better understand what will be happening underground as part of this project. So Kevin Cothe.
Mayor and Council, we're very excited to present to you tonight about the fiscal year 2015 sewer rehabilitation program, and want to get right into giving you some background about the project and the need. This is an outcome of our study of the overall sewer and stormwater system. As you know, we've recently completed a master plan and identified a lot of needs, and this is going to address some of those needs. The scope of the system, we have over 370 miles of sanitary and combined sewers, ranging in size from 4 inches, there's very few of those, to as big as 8 feet in diameter, which is a very big sewer. We have over 280 miles of sanitary sewers and 90 miles of combined sewers. And the combined sewers, they carry both sanitary waste and storm water. So in the older parts of town, quite often you have a combined sewer system as opposed to the newer parts of town where we have separate sanitary and separate storm sewers. One of the issues that combined sewers have is in a big rain, you can end up with basement backups and other types of flooding because the capacity of the pipes exceeded because of the storm. So that's a little bit of the background there.
Kevin, if, before you leave there, just a
Sure.
second, go back.
Yeah,
I think it
absolutely.
might be helpful. Just share with the council on what is the state of the construction of these pipes? Because
Yeah.
these maroon, are over 100 years old. So talk a little bit about what these older pipes are made out of versus today. Just
So a lot of our sewers date back into the 1800s. One of the sewers that we're going to be lining in this project is a brick sewer from 1881. So in the maroon area of town, as the city manager said, we have most of our older infrastructure. Now some of it dates after the 1900, but a lot of it predates that. And typically the construction material back then would be clay. Clay has been a pipe that's been around for thousands of years. It works well, but it's also just like your ceramic plates at home, it's very brittle. If you drop it, it'll shatter. And likewise, if the sewer gets impacted by something, it can shatter. And so that's what you'll see when we get a little further in the presentation, some of the broken clay sewers and that type of thing. Also, the joints on clay sewers are not as good back in that day as they are today. So that also is part of the issue. So thank you. So the project is going to really address two main issues. One is a structural defect issue where, as I mentioned, the clay pipes, they break, they get holes in them, resulting in cave-ins, sometimes in the street, and sometimes just the connections will shift because of the cracking in the bell spigot. And then the other issue that we're addressing is inflow and infiltration, commonly referred to as I&I. And that involves groundwater getting into sewers that are sanitary only that shouldn't be there. And we'll get into that a little bit more. You can see in those pictures to the right examples of that. So that one sewer picture in the bottom is a section from a camera showing water pouring in through a joint where there shouldn't be water coming in. That one doesn't happen to be in Bloomington, but it illustrates the issue. So as was shown in that previous slide, aging sewers can be a big issue, very costly to replace, especially if you dig them up to replace them. It's very disruptive to the neighborhood. A few years ago we did the Locust Colton Phase 1 project where we replaced water main and sewers. We tore up streets and neighborhoods, and it resulted in inconvenience to the people that live there, not just for a day, but for weeks and months. And so, we try to avoid it if we can, and so that's why in this contract we're looking at extensive lining. There's an overview map that shows the areas of town we're addressing. A lot of those areas are in this old area that you saw in the first map, the maroon area. The sewers are, in a lot of cases, 100 years old or older. This is an example of a sewer that was built in the 1880s. This is a brick sewer, and it's in very good shape, as you can see. This is a camera looking inside the sewer. One of the issues with brick sewers, though, is the connections into the brick sewer. So what you're seeing here in the two pictures is services that are pipes that are connected into that brick sewer, and because the connection wasn't made well, the bricks around the connection point have fallen out and holes have developed next to the pipe, the service pipe coming into that sewer. A lot of times this, over years of erosion, then will result in a hole in the street or in the parkway or in the sidewalk where this occurs. This is an example of a pipe that's a clay pipe sewer, and at the top you can see the white cracks. This one has what we call hinge cracking, and what that means is that the sewer, instead of being round, is getting squished, and it cracks on the sides and cracks on the top. And the white material is mineral deposits that are leaking in with the water, kind of like you would see in a cave. In the next picture you'll actually see like stalactites that are hanging from the sewer. So here on the left you can kind of see the mineral deposits as the water infiltrates in. These sewers have hinge cracking as well. This is an example of one of the sewers we're going to line along the Clun Street, and that results in the pipe egging, as I said, because it's squishing it. And if we address it soon enough, we can avoid having to replace the pipe because we can line it with a structural liner and it'll stabilize the pipe so it doesn't collapse completely. This is another view of a pipe with the extreme egging. This is on an angle, so the cameras can rotate when they go through sewers, and so the camera's rotated in the shot. So top is not at the up is not at the top of the picture. It's off to about 11 o'clock. In the water, you can see it looks like it's going to fall off the picture. That's the actual horizontal elevation going through there. But you can see it really illustrates how the sewer is oval instead of round because of the extreme hinge cracking there. So you might ask, well, how do you fix this without digging up and replacing the sewer? Well, one of the ways is with a liner. And this is non-invasive. We don't have to dig up the street. We only have to get access through manholes. The liner, I got an example that I brought with me, a little bit of show and tell here. This is the material before it goes into the pipe. It's flexible. And then this is the material after the liner's been in place. This is a surplus piece from a manhole. So you have the manhole, the big opening, the liner goes in. The liner's impregnated with a material that is called cured in place. Hot water is injected inside the liner, and after a few hours it hardens up, and you can see that this does not want to give. It's very rigid. This happens to be the excess part that was in the manhole, and it was cut off because it wasn't needed. This actually was not inside the pipe. This was sticking out the end of the pipe. But this is from 2007 when we did a lining job, and it's a very good illustration of what that looks like and how that helps to hold the pipe together and prevents further deterioration of the pipe.
You pass that around.
Oh, sure, yeah. By all means. Here you can see the raw material too. So how the liner works, in the pictures up at the left you can see a sewer with the hinge cracking. In the middle you see a picture of the liner being pulled into the sewer. There's a couple ways to do the liner. This one happens to be pulling it in. Another way is to invert it in, where they kind of blow it in instead of having to pull a cord through. But then the right picture at the top shows you what the sewer looks like after it's been lined. And it looks basically like a new pipe. The lower right picture is actually an image from Boston showing how the liner is fed through a manhole and pulled into the pipe and then expanded out to form the pipe inside a pipe, if you will. So the other issue that we're addressing besides structural is also inflow and infiltration. And with inflow and infiltration, it involves a lot of cases of stormwater and groundwater entering the system that shouldn't be there. So in the east side of town, near the Arcadia section is where we're going to be addressing that. And it becomes an issue because of the southeast treatment plant is not designed to handle storm flows. It's not a combined plant like the Oakland Avenue treatment plant. It's actually only designed to handle sanitary flows. And having excess groundwater poses an issue for the capacity of that plant. And so the Arcadia system, we're doing the lining mainly for addressing the I&I issue. And you can see that that's in the just east of Veterans Parkway near El Dorado. We're going to use this as a pilot program because in the stormwater and sewer master plans, there was a study done on the east side to determine how much I&I is coming into the system, and this was considered to be one of the worst locations for I&I, and so this is going to be used as a pilot to gauge the effectiveness of lining to reduce I&I. There's mixed results across the country about the effectiveness of that. So you can see this is a blow-up of that sewer shed on the east side of Veterans Parkway, and this was identified as one of the worst. We've collected data before, and we'll collect data after the lining to compare the before and after effect of the installation of a liner. That's going to be used because we need to decide long-term how we're going to address the I&I issue east of Veterans Parkway. So what we're doing is this is kind of our decision chart for collecting data and the analysis of the cost of these projects, and then we'll come to some conclusions and look at options, which we kind of have three options identified so far, and that would be to do more lining on the east side, potentially build a wastewater storage facility, or a combination of those two options. So this is going to be used as the pilot study to collect information for making those decisions.
Kevin, before you go on,
Oh, sure.
can you just give the council some data? I'm trying to think. You know, the so-called Randolph wastewater treatment plant has a capacity of, what was it, about 20 million gallons a day, or do you recall exactly?
Yeah, it's not that high.
Okay.
I want to say it's more...
17 or...
It's actually more like, normally it can handle up to 9. The worst storm that we had, it was getting up to 27 million, and that was a problem for the plant, yeah.
And I think it helped because typically the flow into that plant on a normal day is probably only round the 3,
right.
3 million gallons a day.
Yes.
But when we have these storm events, because there is so much I&I, intrusion or problem on the east side, that's when we can almost overload the plant. We've got to, and some of you may recall when we had officials of Binward here saying that this is a serious problem we've got to address someday, because the IEPA, who monitors the wastewater treatment plants, does not want to see them, overrun their capacity. It causes all kinds of problems. So sooner or later, it does appear that most of the I&I problem is coming in on the east side of the city, probably in Bloomington area neighborhoods. We've tried to look everywhere we can to find the quick fixes, if open manholes, things like that. But this is an issue ultimately that will have to be solved, because if not, the IEPA could come down on us and take some strong action. So we're working in cooperation with Binward, but as we talk about these are not going to be easy or inexpensive solutions, but it is a problem that has to be resolved, and I think this is an early phase, but you'll be hearing more about this. Some of these, and if you could, I think one of those recommendations is build a wastewater storage facility.
Correct.
Do you recall just kind of what the cost estimate of that was? It was pretty significant.
It is significant, and an example of it is shown in that picture in the bottom. That's in Knoxville, Tennessee, but it could be similar to that. But it's in the millions of dollars, yeah.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. So the next steps for our sewers in the city's core, the master plan recommends rehabilitation of about 1% of the system per year. That would equate to roughly 4 miles of sewer per year. This program, we're going to rehabilitate about 2 miles of sewer, so we're only addressing about half of what we probably should be as provided through the master plan guidelines. That would kind of be the best practice too, is that we should be more aggressive in our lining program. We are also going to continue with the evaluation and inventory of the sewer system. We by no means have televised all the sewers in the city, so we don't have a current condition rating on all the sewers. We've only looked at some of the worst ones first, and a lot of times those show up because of defects that we found in the street or in the sidewalk. A lot of these sewers that we're addressing this year have had repairs done to them previously, point repairs, where there's been a problem in them, and that's how a lot of times we find that problem. We want to get more proactive and be able to see through closed circuit televising of our sewers what the conditions are before something happens in the street. So, and then the whole issue of a combined sewer overflow elimination, like the Locust Colton project, we can talk about that another night. This is plenty for one night here, so open it up for questions.
Okay. Do we have immediate questions?
Just one question, Kevin, and I'm going back 3 or 4 years, and it may be more, but I know one of the first times I heard about I&I was a section, and I want to say it was east of Towanda Barnes Road, maybe, or certainly east of Hershey, and it struck me then that relatively speaking, that was a much newer part of the system out there, but there was significant I&I out there. Did we ever get to the root cause of exactly why we had so much I&I in a relatively much newer part of the system? I mean, if we've got stuff in other parts of the city that's 100 years old and intact, and can, just in 25 words or less, man, do not spend a lot of time on that, but I'm just kind of curious about do you recall the section I'm thinking of? I mean, out Ireland Grove Road past Towanders.
Yeah, not specifically, Alderman, but
Okay.
I know that there are, in this study that we've done for the east side of veterans, there's a lot of areas, including the newer areas as you speak, and the flow data shows that we have some issues, but there's a number of factors that can come into play with the I&I, and part of the issue is finding that source, and even in some of the newer areas, it wasn't until recently that we switched from clay pipe to plastic pipe and some other materials that are not as likely to crack or have issues with inflow and infiltration. But there are other sources, like for instance, homeowners sometimes have their sump pumps tied into the sanitary sewer. If it's in the basement, a lot of times we don't know about it.
Right.
That can be a big problem, especially during wet years. There's other cases of commercial buildings where we found, roof drains or downspouts tied into sanitary systems, and that's a cross connection that is not allowed. But those things are a lot of times very hard to find because it's very labor intensive. Somebody needs to go out and dye test and do other, very labor intensive. So
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Alderwoman Schmidt and then Howman.
Thank you. This is really interesting, and I appreciate the work you're doing with assessment as well. Could you speculate at all if we did not try this system that you've shown us tonight, what just the work that we have in front of us might cost us?
I don't think well, I can say that in the storm and sewer master plan, the 20-year projected capital cost is a $136 million need there alone for 20 years. So, this project that's before you tonight for approval, we got some very good prices. We had, 4 bidders. We got some much better prices than we thought, and so we want to leverage that opportunity to do more sewers than we originally planned to with the lining.
Great. Thank you very much for your work on this.
Alderwoman Howman, and then I'm going to ask for a motion for further discussion.
Kevin, thanks. This was helpful for me, especially the visuals and being able to touch the stuff. Thanks.
Wonderful.
For that, yeah, tactile.
It's right behind Jeff Jurgens if anybody else wants to take a look.
Okay. No, I'm good. What's the disruption to residents, for example, in Arcadia when the work is being done?
Right. So with the liner, it's minimal disruption. During the time that the liner goes in, people won't be able to use their sewer. Okay, so we'll coordinate with those residents. Depending on the size of the sewer and the size of the liner determines the cure time on it. But a lot of times, and we haven't gotten to the details because we haven't had our pre-construction meeting with the contractor yet, but sometimes these projects can be done at night or during the day, during off-peak hours. For instance, if people go to work and stuff, they're not home. But we'll have to work closely with the residents because there'll be a time when the liner's going in where they can't be using the sewer.
Any idea how long that would last?
It's usually less than 8 hours.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Lauer.
Just real quick, and again, real short answer. Do we know, I know we don't have a lot of experience with this yet, and this is kind of a pilot project, but it is interesting. How long do we think, or how long do they forecast this to last without any other outside intrusions to the system? So if we go in and line a section, does it last 15 years? Does it last 50?
We don't have a lot of good data on it, but I can say that we have done liners for all my career here at the city, which is 26 years. We have done liners the whole time, and lining technology continues to improve. So, I could say probably easily 50 years to 100. We don't know for sure, but it does make a big difference.
So it is rather lengthy, though.
It is lengthy.
We're
yes.
making a small investment if you look at it over a long period of time.
That's exactly right.
Great.
That's exactly
Great.
right.
Great. Thank
Okay, do we have a motion then to approve that this the sewer rehabilitation award?
So moved.
Moved by Alderwoman Painter, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Schmidt. Any further comments, discussion? So a yes vote would be in favor of this contract. Thank you. Sorry, well, let me see. Start vote again. Let's try it. Oh, there we are. It's working. Okay. Okay. Well, it's not, oh, it's on that one. Okay. The motion carries 9-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. Okay, it did come up on that one. All right, now we're going to move on to item 7C, fiscal year 2015 semi-annual financial report. We've got about a 20-minute presentation, and then we've allocated about 20 minutes for questions and answer. Patty Lynn, I guess you're coming forward. And again, this is just a preliminary. We don't have to address absolutely anything and everything, but this is an update for us. Thank you.
Just an update. I don't know how I'm gonna, I didn't think following a sewer presentation would be so hard to follow, but that was really interesting.
Do you have anything to pass around?
I do not have pictures of live sewer, and I do not have anything to hand out, although I was gonna grab your cookies, Diana, and pretend I made them. But great job, Kevin. That was awesome. It makes it very easy to understand. So the fiscal update for this year, I think you guys all got this a little bit late in the week, but in your agenda packet, and I'll keep it very brief unless you guys have a lot of questions for me. So let's see. Maybe full screen. Let me make it bigger. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So we're going to start with a quick fund overview, mainly to explain why we talk about the general fund so much, and then some of the other breakout funds, just for those who haven't joined us before. So we budget for about 28 funds in fiscal 2015, about $180 million. And about 51% of our budget is the general fund, which is our main operating fund, with the exception of some of our enterprise funds. Our second largest fund is the water fund, and then these are some of our enterprise funds of interest, and then with the remaining funds being another 25%. And we'll talk about the general fund, water, sewer, stormwater, and solid waste today. As I mentioned, the general fund is the city's main operating fund, which houses most of our city operations. 80% of the general fund operations are funded through state and local taxation. The remaining 20% is funded through various license, permits, fees, and fines. Much of the general fund revenue, because it is taxation, is, and the fees and fines too, are considered elastic in nature and sensitive to the changes in the economy. For instance, building permits. You know, if the economy is not booming or people aren't developing, we will have less in permits. The general fund also supports the operations of those other funds that we'll be discussing in the event that they cannot support themselves. This is kind of a breakout of our general fund taxes. So this is the 80% of the revenue in the general fund. Property tax is 23% of that 80%. Sales tax makes up another 37%, both home rule and state. Income tax is another 10. Utility tax, although there's multiple components in that, make up another 9. And then food and beverage is actually one of our major taxes. I did break out the local motor fuel tax and the amusement tax because they're new. And then we have some other ancillary taxes. Right now, and I know this isn't new news, but the state and the home rule sales tax are trending about 3 to 4% below where they are this time last year. We only have the consumer spending results through September. As you know, we get that information. It's extremely delayed. We won't know what the Christmas sales are until March. This trend, if it was to continue, could result in a shortage of approximately $1 million on the revenue side. In addition to that, the income tax is also trending down at 4%, and that could equate to about $320,000. Our utility taxes are increasing, but as you know, we recently increased those rates. Consumption is level. We went back and looked at consumption over the last 3 years, and we have had no decrease in utility tax consumption compared to what's happening this year. So we believe that we will hit our target, which is earmarked for police and fire pensions, but we're watching that. The local motor fuel tax is doing fantastic. It's actually trending to come in about $600,000 higher than the $1 million we budgeted. If we were to annualize that in the 16 budget, that would be about $2.4 million if that trend was going to continue. So much, much more than we anticipated. However, that's completely earmarked for street resurfacing. So it doesn't help with our general operations. The amusement tax, I'm finding it very difficult to project because BCPA events, Coliseum events, I think are more seasonal. They're just kind of gearing up now and will probably continue through May. So right now we're trending about $500,000 behind. This is the time of year where people go to the movies, they rent more movies, not so much activity in the summer. As you know, these new taxes started on August 1st. So we don't have a full year, and then in the amusement tax, we're just not quite sure. We budgeted $1 million. Right now it's trending at $500,000 under, but there really is no way to know how many tickets will be sold. So it's kind of wait and see right now on the amusement tax, and I will keep you posted. Plumbing, heating, and electrical permits are down about $150,000, and ambulance fees are down. We are in the process of closing the Market Street TIF and also the Downtown Bloomington TIF, David, is that the other title, which could result in $300,000 in additional revenues to the general fund from the sales tax side.
And Patty Lynn, before you leave revenues for a second, let's just talk about what normal and others, what we're finding from others who are experiencing the same decline in some of the big sales tax numbers and what you're hearing from your counterparts.
They are down. What we discovered through a joint presentation that we gave at the Chamber, which some of you attended, was that we don't have the same local economies. We have a different makeup than each other, and we really don't necessarily have to trend together. We have more automotive, and and filling stations, and they have more general merchandise. So things. Our overall breakout of the sectors of sales tax are not the same. However, they are also trending down. Ours can be tied to specifically one car dealer in our automotive that is now in Normal. That is no longer in Bloomington, which happened about a year ago. If the losses continue, that one car dealer I think was about $200,000 a year that we were earning in sales tax. In addition to that, we have in the household furniture and radio component, which is really like your electronic stores. One of our larger electronic dealers received a giant sales tax credit, which is beyond our control, and so that's another reason that particular component is down. But we watch it. Again, the information is very delayed. So right now we only have consumer spending through September. So we have to really prep for the information that we have now and be conservative. Our general fund expenditures, as most of you know, salary and benefits makes up 51% of our budget, contractuals another 13%. That would also house our workers' comp and general liability contributions. Commodities, debt service. Intergovernmental actually includes our pension payments to police and fire pension. And debt service here only actually accounts for our capital lease. In the transfer section is where we transfer out about $4 million in debt service to the debt service fund. The reason we bring up the makeup of our expenditures is because we've had many high-level retirements this year, which resulted in increased costs for retirement-related payouts and the cost for contract employees for some of those interim positions. Because they were high-level positions, interims were appointed. And this is our estimate, net through year-end, if we don't have savings elsewhere in those accounts. In addition to that, the fire department is running over in their overtime. They have multiple related work injuries. It could be as high as $800,000 over in overtime. They do have a minimum manning requirement, so that always equates to lots of overtime. And then outside legal services, because of some of our bigger matters like Pepsi Ice Center Garage, the Coliseum repairs, Clark Baird, et cetera, could be as much as $400,000 over. In addition to that, I think the original budget for 15 was actually set by the previous corporate counsel, was probably a little bit low because it was an in-house model. We do have savings in the principal and interest related to this year's capital lease program. I have not yet executed the capital lease, and we may have a savings of about $650,000. So what does that mean? If you look in the first column, that's the revised budget, or the budget that you adopted plus any budget transfers that have occurred between now and then. I don't know if you remember, but we actually did adopt a budget that had slightly higher revenue than expense, which is a little unusual, but net in the 11th hour when all the taxes were adopted and so forth, it was slightly higher. So that $525,000 would be a positive. Looking over at the projection, our revenues, we do project now that they'll be 91 million and that our expenditures could be as high as 93.1. That leaves us with a hole of $2.1 million in the current year and 4 months left of the year to fix it. I would point out that an action plan is already underway to resolve this deficit. I think you might recall this time last year when the sales tax revenue began to decline and we made some adjustments through the budget, we had to go on a spending freeze of about 1.5 million, and we were able to finish the year actually with a surplus. It's not always a great thing because certain things that we really need done aren't getting done, but can we close this gap? Yes, we can, but I wanted to make you aware of that, and we'll be meeting with staff actually tomorrow to go over some of the suggestions that we're putting forward.
Let me just elaborate a little on that. You know, as typical, you know, at mid-year when we begin to see, you know, this sort of situation, one, we're looking at all our expenditures. If we have, as an example, if we have vacancies, we'll be looking at only filling vacancies if they're absolutely needed. There will be greater justification that'll be required anytime we have a vacancy as to whether or not it's filled, or if we can extend the period of time that it's left vacant to save some money. We'll also be looking at capital expenditures that have not been made, hold those back to kind of, you know, make sure until we see things improving, we can hold back on those expenditures. We'll also be asking the departments to look at all their other line items, commodities, repairs, you know, other areas where they have in the budget. So there's a lot of options there to look and see, you know, with about a $90 million budget, where can we at least hold back on some of those expenditures until we get a better idea into the third quarter as to whether or not the revenue trends will continue down or there will be other changes. So I'll get you more detailed information on that, but as we begin to talk with the departments and also personnel on vacancies, things like that, we're taking some very proactive measures to ensure that we take some measures now to ensure, just like last year, we can definitely end the year in a balanced state, as well as if, you know, last year the measures were so successful that we even ended the year with a surplus. So it is timely to be doing that, and we'll share a little bit more specifics on that going forward.
If I could just add, it's an indicator though that, you know, we are adopting very lean budgets, and if the revenue side does drop out, you know, I think people sometimes have that impression that we have some very lucrative budgets and so forth, and, you know, we've worked hard as, you know, you as a council and us as departments to have lean budgets, but there's not a lot in the way of contingency. And if the revenue side drops out, it just makes it a little bit more difficult to try to get to that year end across the finish line. But we will get there. I did also want to point out that we did open the year with an audited fund balance of $14 million in the general fund, or about 15%. That might be the first time you've seen the audited opening fund balance. Moving forward to the water fund, I did want to point out that the budget was adopted. This $6 million deficit, if you will, was a planned use of fund balance. You can see that they had almost a 90% fund balance when they opened the year, and they had been stockpiling or reserving money so that they can handle some of their capital projects, which they have budgeted to do in FY15. And it looks like they may be proceeding with those as projected. So again, even if they were to use the entire 5.7, they're now projecting they would still end the year with 80% fund balance. So they're in very good shape, and that was an intentional use of fund balance. The sewer fund, the same thing. They were planning to use about $500,000 in fund balance with some budget transfers. They're planning to use some more, but they would still end the year with about 24% or 25%. At a minimum, you'd want to be at around 10% in each fund at a minimum, to give you a benchmark. The stormwater fund is a little bit more tricky. They were planning to draw down on some balance with their projections now, they're getting very close. The sewer and stormwater, as Kevin Cothe was just talking about, there was a master plan that was completed. Stormwater fees have not been raised since 2004. The sewer has somewhat, so they've had some fund balance that they've been putting away, but the stormwater is really lagging behind. So this is one that is really primed for a rate study. And I think that's something that would probably be coming forward this fiscal year, is to do a rate study for both sewer and storm, because they do have $136 million in overall infrastructure needs, and how would we pay for that? But just on an operating basis in the sewer stormwater fund here, there's not a lot of capital in here. They're about to, they could end the year with a very close break-even fund balance.
I can just add here, one of the big projects we're still holding back, looking at the financing, is Phase 2 of the Locust Colton project. Right now, if we were to bring that to you, there's no way we could say that we can take that on without sending the stormwater fund into a deficit position, even with the debt service associated with that. That's a real concern. We are working with the state to see, can we go a year or two before we move on with that, but again, we just don't have the financial capability to take on another big project. I think that was about $3 or $4 million without going into the red. So it's one of the things we'll be sharing more information with you, but we're trying to make sure that we do our due diligence and make sure we're looking out long term, and do we have the financial capability to take on some of these new projects? And of course, that is one that we could not, given the current condition of the stormwater fund.
And just to add to that, the water and the sewer and the stormwater are all part of the Locust Colton project, but you can't do one without the other. So we can't move ahead water and sewer and not do storm. So that's on hold right now. The solid waste, which we talked about last time, I did just want to point out that we did open the year with a slightly negative fund balance. Because you guys adopted a new rate structure, I let that ride because there was no way to know if people were going to go into the larger cards really, or they, we just didn't know how that would pan out. But as you know, they are opting for some of those smaller cards, and so that number did actually, well, as you know, it's looking like we could end the year with about a 20% negative fund balance. That $6.6 million up above does include a $1.2 million transfer from the general fund already. So if we were to fix that this year, we'd have to go back to that general fund, the 15% that's left, and make a one-time transfer over to the solid waste fund, barring any potential rate changes that might cure that. And open for discussion. The impact to the current year is we're going to, we're going to work on the general fund. We will balance that budget. Anything that doesn't cure itself kind of in those other funds, the general fund's kind of responsible for. And the impact to 16 is if we don't have an active place and plan, some of those other funds are going to begin to burble up and to be a problem. But
okay. Let me, just one final comment. I do want to point out again, I think it's very significant that in our general fund, we began the year with $14 million fund balance, 15%. It was 6 years ago when we had very little, if any, positive numbers in the general fund. So because some of the things we've talked about are one-time events, with some of the expenditures or some of the repairs. Again, we're very fortunate that we build up a very solid, general fund balance to take care of sometimes these emergencies. However, our first priority will be to try and deal with the variance between operating and revenue and expenditures this year. We want to make sure that that's balanced by year end. However, it's all ultimately can be one of those decisions by the council to maybe utilize some of that fund balance. And especially that's the case when sometimes you have retirements, because people work, 20, 30, 35 years, and we carry liabilities on the books for a lot of that accrued leave, and then there's those one-time payouts. But nevertheless, it's a very significant general fund balance. It's maybe not as high as some cities carry, but it's it's right where the policy says it should be. And for that, I think we're in a good shape. But the big concern is, will those downward trends on major revenue, sales tax, and that continue in the next year? Because we're in the second year of this downward trend of those sales tax revenue, and we're all trying to see when do we hit bottom and start to see some increased trend on sales tax revenue. But Normal and several of these other agencies, even the county, are all concerned as well, and they're trying to watch and see when are we going to see that rebound and start seeing some positive growth in some of those major revenue categories. So,
Yeah.
thank you,
Okay,
Mayor.
so we have questions. Yes, we did have a managers and mayors lunch today, and so we had Mayor Chris Coos, Mark Peterson, myself, David, and then Matt Sorensen from the county, and they're experiencing some of the very same things. Questions, comments, starting out Alderwoman Painter and Stearns.
Thank you, Patty Lynn. I know that you worked really hard on this. But I have a question about the solid waste. Is our negative fund balance all due to the carts? It just seems like there's more that factors into this.
I think the analysis showed that, it's not just the carts. It certainly is our biggest cost. Over 50% of solid waste is contributed to bulky waste. And we really don't charge for it. I mean, a second bucket, we do charge a nominal fee. However, if you call the next week, and which you're well within your right to do so, you're not going to get charged again. So we really have estimated only about 1,000 second buckets, if you will. So bulky waste would cure the problem, a charge for bulky waste.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Stearns.
Thank you. Thanks, Patty Lynn. And yeah, that's just my favorite theme song, is that people would pay for bulky waste. And I've been told that over and over. I'll pay for it. Allow me to do it. We still have our employees, our great staff out there picking it up. You pay to do it. And the citizens are paying for it. I believe right now, I don't know what we're charging. What do we charge for a fridge or a stove to put on the curb right now? I don't.
Nothing that I'm
Okay,
aware
and
of.
see, I mean, that is unheard of. And why, I mean, really, throughout, the state or any place I've ever heard of, doesn't do that. So I'm really confused that we've done it and done it and we're still doing it. Citizens love the service, but they will, I believe, pay for it. Or if they're not going to pay, I mean, they can also take it down to the city site, where we can drop the drop-off. And that's a huge service right there. So I'm really confused about this going on and on and on. But that's fine. I'd like to move on to a couple other quick questions. Motor fuel tax,
Yes.
you mentioned, is up.
Yes.
And is that due to the additional tax that the council voted on? Is that why it's up?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you were in the room, Mayor, but...
Oh, I'm sorry if I missed it.
Oh, no. I think the mayor might have been out, but I wanted him to make sure that he knew that local motor fuel tax is trending way up.
But is it...
You've told me this longer. Yeah, I know.
I did tell you that. But it is the 4 cents
that we added.
Yes.
Okay, well,
And
I hope it would trend up.
Yes. It is. That's all that is. The state motor fuel tax is something else. But the
Is
local...
it lower, the state?
The state motor fuel tax comes in at about $2 million per year.
Okay. Thank you. And now on to the sales tax. And maybe, again, if I missed this, I'm sorry. But what are we looking at as far as population? I mean, what are we seeing our population do? Clearly more people, more sales, more. What do we know about that, the population, if we have any statistics at all?
I don't have any statistics, but a wise person told me if you want to know what's going on with your population, check your utility consumption.
Okay.
And we've been looking at our utility consumption also because we raised the rate. We're not seeing any decline in electric, water, or natural gas.
And when you say not seeing, do
Over
you
3
mean
years.
decline in the amount of money? Huh?
In consumption, so
In
if you're-
actual consumption, so forget about the increase in the taxes. You're
Correct.
looking at direct consumption.
we look at everything to make sure we'll
Okay.
hit those goals.
Well-
So consumption has been steady for 3 years.
And by population, you mean the population in Bloomington, Judy?
Right. The
Yeah, yeah,
actual number.
We're gaining 1,000 people a year according to the Census Bureau.
Well, I'm sorry, but, that's fine. To me, that's very loose, very informal, and not,
No, it's the Census
rock,
Bureau
and not,
statistics, Judy. I mean, they're public statistics. I mean, I don't know that anybody has.
we're gaining exactly 1,000 people a year.
Within a few, yeah. We went from
Okay.
76, 79, 76,
And what
77,
is the
78,
specific report you're citing there?
U.S. Census Bureau's annual updates.
Okay, and when did we get the,
USCensusBureau.gov.
and when did we get the last one?
The last one I got this last summer. It was for 2013, and we were at 79,000 people.
We're at 79,000 people. Is
79.
that what?
So, if that holds true, we should hit 80 when they update this year.
Okay. I mean, it seems, everyone knows about a major employer, moving people. I mean, I certainly know people who are leaving because of that. I mean, there's no question. I'm going to Dallas, I'm going to Atlanta, I'm going to Phoenix, whatever. So if we're going up, that's, I need to take another look, and thank you for,
Sure.
at that.
I've got it. I'll send it to you.
I can look it up. I mean, if it's online. Yeah, thank you, Patty.
Alderman Milowamboy.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you for the very nice report. It's sobering, though. Not much fun. And so I hesitate to inject, a little bit of optimism in it, but I had a question about gas prices because we've seen that they've gone down significantly over the past 3 or 4 months. So and from what I've read, and again, I don't want people to be too optimistic, but from what I've read is that it's very possible that we could see this trend continue for, up to a year or so. That's what I've read.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be great. So I'm curious, just knowing that, what do you think that could do? People would have more money to spend on different things, right? But do you see any other impact? Do you see a reason for optimism locally based on that?
When I look at our sales tax, I see it moving for very specific reasons. A lot of that information is confidential that we can't speak about over the podium in specifics, but, and again, we do watch for triggers on population and other things, and I just haven't seen those. I don't know. At lower gas prices means to me they'll buy more gas, which is great for the local motor fuel tax because we really need that for our roads. But I don't know what that would mean in terms of, going out to eat or, it's a very complex question.
Yeah, I've also heard about or read about people buying more SUVs as a result, for example, in the past couple of months. I've also read about more people buying automobiles during Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Because
We've seen an uptick in auto.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
It's not one of our major revenues, the taxes that we receive on automobile sales, but we've seen definitely autos are trending up
Okay.
consistently.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Alderman Black.
Thank you. Thank you, Patty Lynn. I feel like every time you come here, you come bearing some, I don't know, not the best news sometimes, but...
I hate to have that stigma. I really...
Right?
I'll present sewers next time.
I would love to, have experience, because my time in government started in 2010, and it's always been doom and gloom. I would have loved to have been around in the 90s or, the early 2000s when things were booming. But, so I, as much as I look at this report, I'm not as concerned because I know that there's still a lot of missing data points that are out there. And to Alderman Milowamboy's point, there's still a lot of people buying cars. My car purchase was not in there, and I think I spent well over $1,000 in sales tax, so you're welcome.
Thank you.
And now I'm buying gas again, so there's that. So I guess my main question here is that, being on the council now for about a year and a half, we have these reports, and there's a lot of ideas that are thrown out there, but there's never a lot of timeline on when we're going to circle back on some of these discussions, and solid waste being one of them. I know that we've talked about that we need to have another discussion, and I've gotten some emails, but I'm sure everybody else has. There was some stories published about it. Is there a time frame that we can expect to have that discussion, early January, mid-February, so when we do address this? Because I think obviously something needs to be done, and I'm not necessarily tied to the idea that it has to be an enterprise fund, but I think we need to have that some sort of timeline for the citizens to be able to provide their feedback.
And we haven't set that yet. The one thing, there is some discussion too is what about, I know there's some strong interest on maybe using an ad hoc committee, get some citizens to review the same data, maybe make some recommendations, but one way or another, we'll be coming back to you next month. As I work with the mayor on the agenda, when we're ready to come back with and to have you give us some specific direction one way or another on those options that were thrown out there.
Sure. And the other one too is I know I've heard about the stormwater fee study for a while now. Where are we in the process of initiating that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically I know it's in the process, but I don't think we're trying to think. It is one of many projects, that is out there to kind of move along as soon as we can. So it's, I'll have to get back to you with the specifics on that. But it's, we are looking at both a stormwater and a sanitary sewer rate study, and it's just a matter of going back and getting that, having the time and to put that together. Right now, we're just very heavily right now in the budget review process, working with the directors and many of the staff members, but that also is a higher priority to bring forward sometime in the near future.
Absolutely. So thank you. And I would just note, in regards to solid waste, I definitely echo Alderwoman Stearns' point regarding the bulk waste. I've received a number of conversations recently regarding the fact that people are more open to paying for it. You may recall when we wrote the policy the last time that people were very upset that we were even considering reducing bulk waste service. And it almost feels, and I won't be quoted on this, so she's gone, that there's more of the public acceptance of potentially paying for that service, and you've alluded to the fact that might fill in some of that hole that we've created.
And I'm sure Public Works would agree, but clearly bulk waste is the most costly service and the one that we're not charging for.
Absolutely,
So.
and just as a reminder to the council, when we were originally talking about that, there was a lot of feedback from the public that they were not open to the idea, whereas I'm feeling now that that's not the same mood as it was a year.
I think they wanted it.
Or they wanted
Right.
it, but now it's...
As Alderwoman Stern says, maybe we charge them $25 even to throw the refrigerator out.
Right. Well, and my point being, people were very... I talked to a guy who wanted to throw away a couch every week and was very upset about that we were going to be even considering, a second bucket load, and we were talking about reducing service. So just something to keep in our back pocket as we consider these budget discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Lau.
Just, if we're going to talk about solid waste, and we've kind of agreed that it's a very basic service, I really think that we really need to look at a more broad view in terms of all the programs that we subsidize out of the general fund. We're really hitting people where it counts if we charge for these, and I don't disagree that maybe we should be charging for some of the solid waste, especially the bulky waste. But raising the basic fee for the truck to show up for folks that are on a fixed income, I think we can look at it, but boy, I don't know where you're going to get the money from some of these people. They just don't have it. I really think we ought to look at some of these other areas that we're subsidizing and talk about user fees in terms of the Coliseum, the BCPA, it goes on and on. Parks and Rec in general, we're spending a lot of money overall out of our general fund that doesn't include solid waste. And so it's a very small percentage of all these other subsidies. I really think we need to have a more broad-based discussion if we're going to do that. Thank you.
Okay. And I think that's what we will in the budget process, yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Patty Lynn. We'll move to our last item, and it is the 2015 Major Capital Projects Update on Water, Parks, and Public Works. And we have projected having a bit of a presentation and then a brief discussion.
Thank you, Mayor, and we're going to have three presenters. We're going to start with Brett Lucian. Brett is currently interim water director. He's going to be talking about some of the water projects completed this past summer or some that are still in process. We're going to be following that with Bobby Harakovich, or did we switch? Okay. Bobby's going to be first up, and then we're going to finish with Kevin Kofte. We thought this was a real strong positive note to really go over what are some of the projects we completed, including the big $10 million street resurfacing. So these are some very, I think, good pictures to show some of the progress we've made on rehabilitating and addressing a lot of our infrastructure. So we'll start with Parks and Bobby Harakovich, Interim Parks, Recreation, Cultural Arts Director. Bobby.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing us the time to talk a little bit about what we've accomplished in the last 6 months. As you know, the Parks, Recreation, Cultural Arts budget was cut pretty heavily in the last couple of years, and so we have gone to some other services that you may not know about as well, and so we're going to show you a couple of those tonight, the things we've accomplished. If I can figure out how to use this. All right, you told me to go up, but down. Okay, we'll go down. All right. One of the things that we hope to accomplish is a Benjamin School Trail. This is a Safe Routes to School grant, and this is really a public works project that'll be working with the Parks Recreation Department. This was the IDOT funding that was provided that the city was just announced very recently. This would allow us to connect a part of the Grove and provide walking route to Benjamin Elementary School through a future city park. So that's something that we're looking forward to. Also, we are looking at input on the Constitution Trail along Sugar Creek, and this is another potential for an east-west connection for the Constitution Trail. So we'll be talking more with our residents and our groups about that. This past year we completed in July the Franklin Park Playground, as you know. It's been very well received, and a lot of that was designed by our Parks Department, and we're really proud of what they've done. They actually went and bought a bunch of school toys and pails and shovels and such and put it out there in the sand and thought that they would probably not last overnight, but there are actually more there today than we started with. So it is working very well, and it's a great neighborhood. So. We also did a replacement with the Suburban East Park Playground. I must tell you that the cost for these playgrounds are really low because we're installing them ourselves, and that's really something that is, we're very fortunate to be able to have the skilled staff to be able to do that. Pepperidge Park Playground was also completed this September. Cost there of $45,300. And a lot of attention to the restoration of some of our historic monuments, and that's important for us to keep on top of, and I'm real proud of the contractual arrangements that we had for the completion of this Civil War monument. Trotter Fountain also was completed as well this past summer. Some of the things that we're doing on the side that you may not know about are Eagle View Park Prairie. I don't think we install Prairie. I think we plant it, but I didn't create this presentation, so we'll teach the person that that's a plant, not an install, and a verb, but $2,500. And then we burn it, several years later. So we plant it, and then several years later we have to burn it because to get rid of the invasives. The Grove Prairie Maintenance is absolutely gorgeous. If you've seen that, that's a stormwater project as well. Serves dual purpose of providing open space and conserving the environment, and also restoration of the waterways and the filtration of the water through the aquifer. So it's a really win-win-win all the way around. Stream and water management is something that Parks Department also is in charge of. So when you see banks that are overgrown or such, that's our staff that are out there cleaning those up. Something that we need to address in the future. Constitution Trail ongoing. This year we do have several sections of intergovernmental agreement that we have obligated $149,000 to. Emerald ash borer management, this is a tough one. Lots and lots of trees that we have, lots of requests for trees to come down. There you see one that has been diseased and how it dies from the crown. The issue here is that we're behind even though we've taken out how many, Bobby? 4,000. We have 4,000 trees that need to be addressed. We've taken out quite a few of them this summer and working as fast as we can on them. We want to get them down when they are diseased because we don't want to have issues during ice storms and such in the wintertime where we have downed trees in our streets. We're not going to be able to accomplish that in just a year. It'll take several years to accomplish, or additional dollars to have them removed. We also take care of all the lakes and stormwater retention areas, and that's an ongoing annual maintenance. Here at Tipton Lake, it's cost us about $5,000. At Golden Eagle, another $3,300, and this is basically to treat duckweed and such, and something that we hear about from our neighbors all the time. As soon as there's a bloom, we hear about it. So this is something that we need to address on an annual basis. Eagle Creek Detention Pond, another one that we maintain, and of course Miller Park Lake Management, which we all know and love. On the side this summer, our creative genius at the Bloomington Performing Arts Center asked for an area for a gathering area outside, and so in-house we were able to piece together a design and come up with a little patio, and that is going to be really nice to have as we open this next spring. We also addressed some tuck pointing, and we'll be doing that on, I believe, the next 2 or 3 years to make sure that we have structural integrity. Did some tennis court resurfacing this past year as well, at a cost of $10,000, really make it look good. Flamingo exhibit at Miller Park Zoo. This was an original plan. There is now a conceptual plan that's available, and that entire design and construction cost is $250,000. That's $5,000 a flamingo. Not very much when you look at it. I think our residents are going to absolutely love it. We also do a lot of HVAC work in our facilities, and so our Parks Department is in charge of replacing things like furnaces at Prairie Vista, the huge Pepsi Ice Coliseum compressor, which had to be exchanged, so we're very busy with all kinds of maintenance items that you may not know of that the Parks and Recreation and Cultural Arts Department does to support other departments in the city. And I want to thank you for the opportunity, and I was given 5 minutes. I think I made it, and introduce to you Brett Lotion to continue. Thanks.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to present the 2014-2015 water main projects that we've either have completed or are looking at doing here before the end of 15. The first project we're going to be looking at is the Parkview. This is Parkview Phase 3. This was a $200,000 projected project. This is an ongoing project. The contractor is about 65% done with this project as to date. This actually consists of streets. There's actually 3 streets that are consisted in this Phase 3. It's Livingston, Byer, and Barker Street. And this is just west of Miller Park. The second one we'll be looking at is the Parman Street. This project's about 25% complete to date. The contractor is actually still out working on this project. This is Parman Street, just right off of Lincoln, and it's between Lincoln and Pierce that we're actually replacing water main. The reason why these 2 projects have been are under construction is because of poor performing water main, undersized water main. We're actually putting 8-inch ductile iron pipe in the ground. What we're actually replacing was actually 6-inch cast iron pipe. So this next project we're going to be looking at is the the Main Street relocation of our transmission mains. This is actually in the town of Normal, but our transmission mains actually run through the town of Normal, basically from Fort Jesse all the way down to our Division Street plant. This is about a $250,000 project. This is still under design right now. We're actually working underneath IDOT's schedule. They are having a lighting on this in January, and our construction is going to have to be sometime here early spring. But it's basically taking our 2 24-inch transmission mains and relocating them outside of where IDOT's replacing the bridge. The next project we'll be looking at is Stewart Street. This project actually is going to be designed this winter. Stewart Street, we've had multiple water main breaks, and this is basically from Center Street down to Oak Street. As you can see, we've got an open ditch where we fixed a water main just recently, but you could also see the other patches where we've actually had other water main breaks. Once again, this is a very undersized water main, very poor performing main. So we'll be actually looking at constructing this sometime here in the spring. The next street or project that we'll be looking at is MacArthur Street. We actually completed this project in-house with our staff. We have a very talented distribution staff that actually was able to construct this water main and actually get all the services and stuff put in. As you can see, it cost us about $70,000 with material, manpower, and stuff. So there was a big considerable savings with us doing this in-house. The reason why we kind of chose to do this project in-house is because we were working underneath Public Works timeline. They're actually looking at widening the street 2 feet on each side. This is actually MacArthur from Livingston up to Morris Avenue. Yeah, Morris Avenue. So the next project we're going to be looking at is design and construction of some water main at Lake Bloomington. We have some 2-inch, 4-inch, a little bit of 6-inch, and some 10-inch water main up at Lake Bloomington. Very undersized when you're talking 2-inch water main. You definitely don't have the fire flows that you need. That's why we look at replacing water mains with 8-inch ductile iron pipe, just so you have the better fire flows, but also providing better water, quality water to our customers. Again, this is about $225,000. Not going to take care of everything up at Lake Bloomington, but it's going to really take care of a lot of the 2-inch, 4-inch water mains that we have that are undersized. This is a Lake Evergreen bridge replacement. This was brought to approval several months back. This is actually taking the old deck off and replacing it with a new deck. About a year ago from an inspection, we were showing some failure on our support for the deck and stuff, so we brought it to consideration for replacement, and you guys did approve for that. This is an ongoing project. Stark's actually working on this as we speak. Hopefully we'll be able to have this project wrapped up sometime in March. The next project that we have is the filter replacement up at the treatment plant. As you can see in the left-hand slide, we have a filter, actually 2 filters that have failed. This is in our new filter gallery. The filter gallery was constructed in '87. As you can see, they're tile construction with sand that goes on top with what we call GAC, which is activated charcoal that we use to filter our water, but also take care of taste and odor. We're looking at replacing the failure filters with a new composite type material, which you see on the slide on the right-hand side, but on the left side of that slide. We are looking at trying to hopefully be able to bring this to the council sometime in January. We definitely want to try to have this project wrapped up sometime before spring. So, and the last project we are looking at, I'm going to ask for Scott Sprouse to come up and kind of talk about our SCADA system.
Yes, the SCADA system is the combination of computing technology and software and hardware that basically gives the water folks vision into the water distribution system. So, you know, the levels in the tanks, these pumps are running at, this performance level. We may have a failure upcoming, that sort of thing. You can see there's a lot of technology and a lot of complexity to the system itself. Just a quick mention, in support of this project, the current system that we have in place today, it's called Intellusion, and then that, along with the hardware that's distributed, was put into place in the late 1990s. Certainly has been upgraded, since that time frame. But honestly, the last time we did a major upgrade of this software was in 2004. So, again, it's computers just like anything else, and it is in 2004, now 11 years old. It's in need of refreshing, to say the least.
And like Bobby said, thank you for the opportunity to present tonight our 2014-15 capital projects.
Okay, if you'll just hang around here, we might have some questions then. Yeah. Oh, Kevin?
Okay, for the last piece, we were very busy this year with the street resurfacing.
Mm-hmm.
We had the $10 million bond issue, and we'd like to share with you some of the results tonight through pictures. This project included us going out and televising the sewers, as I spoke earlier today. looking at sewers and cleaning them out and getting them ready for the resurfacing program. The project broke down in this manner for a $10 million total. We had $200,000 allocated to doing closed circuit televising inspections. Doing that allowed us to find some defects and fix those ahead of time. It also resulted in a few streets being reprioritized because we wouldn't be able to get to them. We ended up spending about $500,000 on our pavement preservation program. We reserved $1 million for handicap ramp upgrades. What that involves is whenever we resurface a street, we have to bring the corner ramps into compliance with current ADA standards. That's almost 10% of the budget, but it's a very important thing that we do to comply with national requirements. We also have incorporated into this microwave detection, which involves traffic signals. A lot of times we used to use loops that were cut into the pavement. When we mill the road to resurface it, we destroy those loops and we have to cut them back. The loops are getting more expensive as time goes on. What we found is that we can use the microwave detection at a cost of about $18,000 per intersection, and then we don't have to worry about the loops again. If we ever go back to resurface, do any digs for repairs for sewers or water main breaks, we don't have to worry about replacing those loops. And another great advantage of the microwave is that they can also detect people on bicycles and motorcycles much better than a loop can. So we've used that to our advantage. So that ended up with about just over $8 million for actual resurfacing work. You can see the map is huge. We had areas all over Bloomington that got resurfaced. It was a great program. Kept us very busy this summer. Here's some examples of some of the work that goes along with resurfacing, including inlet repairs, sewer repairs, curb and median. This is over by the George Swear Bridge on Oakland Avenue across the railroad tracks. The street milling in preparation for the resurfacing. And this is a paver that is widening out for a street. Finish utility work. This is one of the things that you might have noticed has changed over the years. A lot of times now the contractor is coming back at the end of the resurfacing and adjusting the manhole and castings up to grade to match the finished street and surrounding it with concrete. Results in a little bit smoother ride and better finish as far as getting that elevation right. When you adjust it ahead of time, it can be difficult to get the asphalt at just the right elevation so you don't have a bump at that manhole. And so here, this is some great illustrations of before and after on Front Street. As I go through these slides, you'll see the picture before, and magically, there's the brand new road when we're done. And it's a wonderful thing. And even sidewalks, in cases where the sidewalks were in very bad shape in some of these streets, we also took care of those while we were there. Out on College Avenue by Stone Mountain Boulevard, Arrowhead Drive. This picture shows you what it looks like after we did the pavement preservation on top of it. When we do the overlay, that same year we try to get back to it with Reclamite, which is a lightweight oil that seals that surface. And you can see in this picture, it looks almost wet. Well, that water just runs right off the surface, doesn't soak in and start deteriorating the pavement right away. It really helps to preserve our pavements and keep them good for a longer time. Sidewalk before and after again. This is over by Mission Drive, over by Oakland and Gridley. And so one of the big things of managing a project of this size is the construction plan showing what we're going to do as far as inlet adjustments, reconstruct, so forth. So in these pictures you see the yellow is the original instructions, the pink afterwards is our post-construction documentation saying exactly what we did, because sometimes when you put your plans together you don't know what you're getting into until you actually get into it and dig it up. So we try to keep notes and make sure that we have records in our office that show what we did. And a ton of credits. There's so many people involved in making this happen. There's a lot of staff time put into this, not just in engineering, but in other departments as well. And we thank you for that support. On top of this $10 million, we also had the $1 million in local motor fuel tax that we used, so we actually had $11 million. The only project that is left outstanding is the MacArthur project, and as Brett mentioned, they just got the water main work done, so next spring we'll hit that and finish that up. So.
Okay, thank you. Questions now about any of the projects here that we've got? Let's see who else would like to speak. Okay, you can't have all the time though, Scott. Go ahead.
No worries. Thank you. I wanted to talk about the SCADA. That was the water system. Um, I'm just kind of curious. I know that there's a lot of niches out there on the internet that like to look at some of this data. Would any of this be something that we could put online so people can watch that, kind of like how snowplow data's up there?
You know, and I might have to look back to the water department for some of that. Certainly it is data, you know, and it's a system that creates, you know, a database and manages that data. So, I mean, the short and easy answer would be yes, you know, there could be ways to put that data in. It would be a matter of, you know, how to get that out, and how best to present it, you know.
With certain security reasons and stuff like that, we definitely wouldn't want to have that publicly and stuff. But like Scott was saying, yeah, it could be done. But there's certain things we have to make sure for security reasons that we
And that
can't
makes
have.
sense, but even like flight trackers, you can see what the plane is on a map, but they have like a delay. And a lot of people watch that, so I can actually Google right now to see what planes are overhead, but there's a mild delay, so it's not that much of a security risk.
That's definitely something we can definitely look at with Scott's help. and
I'd be
stuff.
very curious to see what that would look like, because I know people enjoy interesting things like that.
Sure. Yeah, most
Thank you.
definitely.
Alderman Milowamble and Howman.
Sure. Thank you. I just wanted to take the time to thank all of you for not only scheduling these presentations, because I think, as was said earlier during public comment, that it's important to take a little bit of time and recognize the things that are done well. It's not, we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But I think we do have quite a bit that's going right. I think it's a fantastic community, and it's important that we celebrate it from time to time. And when needed, you make improvements by offering constructive feedback. I also So I think in that respect, I think we should try to schedule these maybe every so often, so that we can remind ourselves about of the good things that we do. I know we have to recognize that the staff, we have a lot of talented staff, and I think we don't say it nearly enough that you guys do a fantastic job, and it takes a special talent to make a sewer presentation exciting, I would say. Thank you.
And Alderwoman Howman, did you say you were okay? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you all very, very informative, not just to the council, but I'm sure to the public. We very much appreciate all your hard work. Thank you. And now we move along to City Manager's discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. And one announcement I would like to make is tonight represents our city clerk's last official city council meeting that she is handling tonight. We do have a reception planned on Friday, January 2nd from 2 to 4 p.m. We'll get some specific out to you, but just wanted to recognize and thank Tracy Covert for all her work as city clerk and for her last official meeting. So,
wow, thank you. She didn't even want to look up when we were all standing. And anyway, the only thing, did you have anything else? I'm sorry, David. The only thing that I wanted to say, again, thank everybody. I hope no matter how you celebrate this holiday season, I hope you have a great holiday. And again, remembering all of the things that we have that we're thankful for. It's sometimes easy to get lost when you're kind of dealing with day-to-day issues and day-to-day problems. But thank you all, and thank you. Happy holidays to the entire council. And I'm going to start with Alderman Fruin, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mayor. Sometimes there's never a good time to talk about certain subjects. It just never fits. But tonight I'm going to try it. And this is unrehearsed, but I also realize it's the Christmas season. So I'm going to try to be very neutral and take any personalizations out of my comments. I'm going to try my best. But it seems like public comment has been getting some attention lately. And I guess my comments tonight as much as we can, I think I'd like to remove myself or ourselves from what's been said tonight, the last meeting, the meeting before. And I think my interest tonight in making these comments is let's move forward. And when we come to the podium, I wrote down a couple things that I think about when people come to the podium. My little words are, we've got choices to criticize or support. We've got choices to doubt or trust. And we've got choices whether to prejudge or ask questions. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to take away any freedom of speech or comments or constructive criticism. Constructive criticism is here for us. But in the past, again, I'm not trying to focus on tonight. Please remove ourselves from that. But I think we have to be careful that we don't, to the extent that I could influence others, let's try not to personalize our comments, and let's try to avoid personal agendas and commercial comments. And what makes me think about this more, if there's one thing that makes me think about it right now, is we got a campaign season coming up. I think there's 3 people on this council that are going to be running for their seats. And I'd hate to have the next few weeks, the next few months turn into comments that are directed toward improving or taking somebody down or whatever the case might be that are relative to the campaign. I think the campaign belongs outside of our council chambers. And I respect the people that want to come up here. I can take the arrows. We talk about thick skin. We can all take the arrows, but you know, we can let people divide us, or we can be stronger than that and unify ourselves. So I'll kind of end on that because I don't want to get wound up here, but it's a Christmas season. It gives us a chance to reflect, and I don't want to take anything away. I'm just saying it's how we present it. I guess in my prior life, one of my responsibilities at one time was managing a call center. And I used to have people tell me the caller was using a lot of profanity and being disrespectful. And my answer at that time was, please tell the caller we can accomplish what we want to accomplish without profanity and without disrespect. And if necessary, you hang up on them. And that seemed to work pretty well because you just got people rethinking about what am I trying to accomplish here and where can we go? I've got a solution, or I've got something to resolve. So I guess I leave it at that. Again, there's no good time to talk about it because people start drawing lines and saying, well, that was that and that was that. But I hope that maybe next year that we can start addressing some of these things. I'll throw in very quickly, Mayor, that a couple years ago, several of us went to other communities to look at their city council meetings. And I think I counted down 7 that I've been to. And that was a couple years ago. I don't know what the current status is, but I think we could learn from how other communities might allow public comment and what they try to manage. So thank you very much. And I do wish everybody a very Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Jim. And just as a FYI, I very much appreciate all of what you've said. Clearly, democracy's messy, so we do know that. But at the same time, people will have, if they have their own particular agendas, some city councils, of course, do require that you address like normal. It has something to do with what you're actually deciding that evening. It's certainly the case in the county. But ours have been pretty loose, and we now have them at every single meeting. And, you know, I supported those things. But there may be a variety of different motives. Obviously, if people are trying to promote a radio station, or they're trying to promote a business, or their own narrow agenda, it doesn't necessarily mean that we can do too much about that. But we will, you know, move forward. I have had discussions with Mr. Jurgens about, you know, what is there anything that can be done? And the reality is we could, but I don't know that we want to be restrictive. But we'll come back and revisit this. If anybody's got any good ideas, I'm all ears. And it'd be nice to have good ideas at public comment. Right? Alderwoman Stearns, and then
Thank you. Thank you very much. As it happens, I wanted to mention a couple things about public comment myself. And public comment is now the law in the state of Illinois. Whether all of the other bodies in our county are in compliance or not is questionable and is being questioned, so we'll see how all that shakes out. To me, public comment is, I don't know, past couple years that I've been on council, we didn't have it before. And I happen to think it's one of the most valuable things we have. I absolutely do not think we should be doing anything at all with public comment because everyone has a right to their comment. And I think the proper way to address their comment is with respect. The citizens actually are our employer, so to speak. We are spending their money. It's not like a private corporation. And by the way, if you've ever been at a stockholders meeting, you will see the stockholders get pretty vocal, and appropriately so. And that's what it's all about. It's not about sterility and kindness. We appreciate the kindness, believe me. But it's not about, that's not what freedom of speech is about, and that's not what America is about. America is about opinions. And the more diverse, the more, they're not my opinion, it doesn't matter. I respect every single opinion and every single person for exactly what they bring to us. They've taken the time to come down here. They've invested. I'm absolutely wowed by people who show up here at council and listen and talk. I'm in awe of it. I love it. I thank every single one of you for doing that. And I will support you no matter whether I'm on this council, whether I'm not. I will never support the council in any way censoring or disrespecting in any way, shape, or form. To me, we listen, we hear it, and that's the end of it. They've had their say. I have never felt insulted by anyone, and by the way, we have another gentleman who comes who's a lot more vocal than some of this, but I have never felt insulted. I have never felt disappointed. I have never felt unhappy ever with a citizen. God bless you all for coming and speaking, and may your right to do that never be in any way adjusted or dealt with. You don't need to be dealt with. We might need to be dealt with, but you don't. That's my opinion, period, to be taken for what it is. And I think more respect for our citizens, a lot more respect for all of our citizens, every single one. I've seen things on email that I find very disrespectful, very disappointing. I think that the citizens are our boss. We work for you, not the opposite. So if you want to tell us something, by all means, have at it. And again, God bless you for doing so. Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy Hanukkah. That's it. Thank you.
Alderman Sage.
I want to highlight a couple of items related to priority budgeting, if I can. Let me quickly say that I know Nora sent out an email to the council this afternoon. Let me give just a little backdrop related to that. We had Bernie Surecki here for some conversations. Suffice it to say that I would summarize that as graciously as I can by saying that I now find that it was somebody that was good at talking the talk but not walking the walk. We had a number of meetings and conversations with him. He was supposed to deliver different items at different times. We had a reasonable statement of work, a level of understanding with him, and that simply didn't happen. Now, he was doing that gratis, and so I think it was the mayor who maybe suggested at one point we're probably getting what we paid for, and that's true. So fast forward to that. What we're trying to do now is to move forward with levels of engagement around priority budgeting. The development of the survey, that again was something that Bernie was supposed to do. And what we've done is try to work at developing a survey that will be available online. You have seen a draft of that, if you will. You know that the email suggested that it was kind of preliminarily tested with the Citizens Academy group. Just a very quick run through with them. Felt like that was appropriate to do before we put it in your hands to get some feedback from you. We'd ask for that feedback by the end of the day on Thursday, which I think is what Nora's email suggests. And then we want to move forward with getting that available online. You might recall that another citizen engagement touch point was something around the Citizens Summit, and we've scheduled that now, and go ahead and kind of save the date for you. That will be Tuesday, January 20th. It will be at the BCPA. It will be from 6 to 9 p.m. And those of you that were around when we did the Citizens Summit there, I think back in 2011, I believe, was the last time we did one. What we'll do is we will simply ask each alderman to invite 10 people from his or her ward. The mayor will invite 10 people at large. Again, this is the format that we used last time. We'll have 10 tables set up and have folks at each of those 10 tables. There'll be one elected official. At each table, there'll be one staff person at each table that will kind of serve as the facilitator or the scribe, kind of gathering comments and feedback from that group. There'll be more details to follow about that, obviously, but wanted to give you that background information that we are moving forward with the online survey. Appreciate your feedback by end of day Thursday, and then save the date, if you will, on January 20th, that Tuesday at the BCPA, which is where we did the last one in 2011. You can, any questions that you might have, please reach out to me. Nora's also been involved, and do feel like I need to give a shout out to Nora, because a lot of this work simply wouldn't have been able, we would not be able to move forward without her help, her assistance, her commitment, and so that's worthy to be acknowledged. So again, I could stay around afterwards if you have some questions. If you want to ask something now, we can. I don't want to hold everybody else up, but want to be available to answer any questions that you have. So thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Lau.
Just want to end on a real positive note. It is Christmas, and there's a lot of gift giving that goes on. A lot of folks have saved up a long time this year to try to purchase things for their families, and I want to encourage everyone to come to Bloomington. Sometimes we lose sight of the fact we get a little narrow vision in terms of what we're doing and what we're spending money on, and you know, this fund or that fund, and it, you know, an awful lot of what we do here is serving an outside audience. People travel for over an hour to get here to shop and to eat in our restaurants and spend their hard-earned disposable income. And we should be very, very mindful and thankful for that. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Black. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by several people. Alderwoman Howman. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right. We're adjourned. Thank you.